I had all kinds of things going on. And when I stopped eating the grains and the starches and the sugars, a really funny thing happened. I thought I was eating fairly healthy. I didn't eat sugar very much, but what people don't realize is when you're eating grains and starch, that turns to sugar. And then when you add sugar to it as well, you're just inundating your body with this processed sugar. So when I quit doing this to my body, and not even little bits, I literally broke out, my torso broke out in little hives all over, and the back of my head, this is kind of gross, but it's true, I got like a cradle cap in the back of my head, which is what, you know, babies are born with when there's too much yeast in their bodies, mm-hmm. right? And so my body was literally, I guess the yeasts were starving, and my body was sloughing them off. And I had this in the back of my head for probably 2 months before it completely disappeared. And then all these little bumps finally disappeared. And I felt like a new person. You know, my aches and pains had diminished a lot. And I gradually started losing what I call a starch belly.
When were you actually diagnosed with an autoimmune disease? Or
about 4 years ago. I was not real big on going to a lot of doctors, and the ones I went to seemed to they wanted to put me on prednisone, they wanted to put me on methotrexate more recently, which is a chemo drug, and it was the way Western doctors wanted to treat the autoimmune. They just wanted to treat symptoms, and I knew that there was more to it. And yes, I was diagnosed on symptoms and biomarkers everyone always thought I had rheumatoid arthritis, but it is not rheumatoid arthritis. It could be lupus, it could be any number of other arthritis symptoms, and fibromyalgia, and all these different labels that they have. But from eliminating the grains and the sugar and the starches for me, and then taking it the next step after reading your book and discovering the things that I was still eating that I wasn't sure and whether they bothered me. And the thing that can be really confusing is unless you dissect your diet to where you're only testing one thing at a time, you don't really know. And unless you are able to read a book like yours and you see that, oh, well, you know, sure, if you're eating cashew chicken and it's got 8 other ingredients in it, how do you know it's the cashews? But it's obviously the cashews.
Yeah, and you know, one of the interesting things is lupus is what we call the great masquerader. And there's actually now over 200,000 cases of lupus in the United States each year. And all the autoimmune diseases, as you know, we have this incredible epidemic. When I was first in training, autoimmune diseases were so rare that the tests we'd get for them back then, we called them funny tests, because they were really funny because we never really got them very much. But now, you know, every commercial on TV is for immunosuppressive treatment for, you know, these common autoimmune diseases. Right. But lupus is the great masquerader. And lupus, interestingly enough, arthritis is one of the biggest presentations of lupus. Most people think it's skin rashes, that it's a butterfly rash on the face or rashes elsewhere. But certainly in my practice, we see a great number of people who have lupus as their arthritis. That's their marker. The other thing is lupus is really good at destroying kidneys. There's such a thing as lupus nephritis. You may have no symptoms, you have no other signs, but you may have, your doctor says, gee, it's funny, your kidneys don't work very well. And they never even bother to look to see if it could be lupus nephritis. So people with fibromyalgia, it's often lupus as the cause of that. And one of the things you found out is that we do have really good immunosuppressant drugs out there. And as a transplant immunologist, I got up close and personal with, you know, immunosuppressant drugs. And what I try to convince people, and I compliment you for not going down that road,
It wasn't easy.
is that, you don't have a heart transplant in you. You don't have a kidney transplant in you.
Right.
These are drugs that are designed to make your immune system not respond to a foreign object like
Right.
a heart or a kidney. And what got me interested in this whole area is that you and other people, believe it or not, I have an anti-nuclear antibody that I can turn on and turn off. I presented myself as a paper at the American Heart Association earlier this year.
Wow.
So this is very common, and the point is it's foreign bodies that are invading us. Now, I happen to think that one of these foreign bodies is a foreign protein called a lectin.
Right.
And by eliminating grains, you're eliminating a lot of lectin-containing foods. And what I've tried to do is get even farther along the line.